Alright, my fellow agents, welcome back to the Gaming Brigade, and one thing we have been talking about here at the channel for the last few weeks is that a lot of players out there, including myself, we're just waiting for the new incursion to drop, which will be at one point this season. And because of that, one request I get here at the channel on a daily basis is to just highlight certain builds that I recommend having at the ready for when that new incursion drops. Now, we do not know the mechanics as yet, but as we've talked about here numerous times, there happen to be a handful of builds and in my opinion are must-haves for every player out there. And having said that, one of the most requested build breakdowns I get here at the channel are ones based around LMGs, so today I'm going to highlight, or revisit I should say, a bunch of builds I have put together over the last few months. Now, as always, I will leave timestamps in the video description down below, that way you can bounce in between the builds anytime you want. I sincerely hope you enjoy these. Let me know of any other questions you have I did not address. Thank you once again for the privilege of your time, and with that being said, let's cut right to the footage. Alright, so starting with the specialization, we are using Gunner. Doing that for the typical reasons: you get that extra armor on kill, reload speed increase, access to the Banshee Pulse, some extra rate of fire, and some extra weapon handling when you're in cover. And please remember to have the proper weapons activated in your weapon skill tree, that way you're getting a 15% weapon damage bonus regardless of which one you're using. Now, as you can see, my primary weapon for this build is the Pestilence, and it happens to be one of the few weapons in the game where I actually took the time and resources to level this thing up to expertise level 30. You can see it has the talent Plague of the Outcast, where hits apply a debuff dealing 100% weapon damage over 10 seconds. This is going to stack up to 50 times. Whenever an enemy dies with this debuff, 100% of the stacks are transferred to a nearby enemy within 25 meters. And again, this is one of those weapons you can use for pretty much everything in the game. As far as the secondary and sidearm is concerned, that is totally up to you, my friends, dealer's choice. But if you happen to have the quick step handgun, I recommend using that, because with that talent, when the weapon is in your hand, you're going to get that extra 20% movement speed bonus. Now moving on to the gear itself, you can see we're running 3 Langmo, 1 Petrov, 1 Cheska, and the Overdogs gloves. Starting with the mask is the first of 3 pieces of Langmo, and we're running 3 because we are targeting that third brand set bonus, which is an extra 30% LMG damage bonus. Next, we have the body armor. That is the second piece of Langmo, and we are using the talent Intimidate, where critical hits are going to increase weapon damage by 1% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 20 times. Continuing on to the holster, it's the 1 piece of Petrov. That's going to give us an extra 10% LMG damage as well. And one thing I'd like to point out is you can see some of these pieces are not fully optimized as yet, so you can definitely get more out of them. Continuing on to the knee pads, it is the 1 piece of Cheska, and as you can see, we're using the Turmoil knee pads. Now, having these equipped are going to give us an extra 8% crit hit damage, and they have the talent Bewildered. When dealing weapon damage to an enemy, 50% of the damage will be dealt to another enemy within 30 meters instead. And when there are no other enemies nearby, you're going to deal damage normally. Now, as I said a moment ago, if you do not have these, you want to use Fox's Prayer knee pads. The reason you want to use those is for that middle attribute, 8% damage to targets out of cover. Right after that, we have the gloves, which are the Overdogs. These are another one of those must-have exotics that I think every single player out there should have. If you don't have them as yet, I will leave a link to a farming video showing you how to get them, and in the meantime, you can use Contractor's gloves instead. I promise you that will definitely get the job done. And last but not least, my friends, we have the backpack, third and final piece of Langmo, and we're using the named backpack the Backbone because it has the talent Perfectly Unstoppable Force, where killing an enemy increases weapon damage by 7% for 15 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. As far as the skills are concerned, I'm using the Reviver Hive and the Fixer Drone. When we take a look at the numbers, I'm sitting at 59% crit hit chance. Remember, the max is 60 and 140.4 crit hit damage, and those numbers are going to be dependent on not only the gear I have equipped, but having a Shade Watch of level 1000. Finally, I want to mention the fact that in the gameplay footage you're about to see, I do not have any global modifiers running whatsoever, and the main reason for that is to ensure that whenever you see this build, you know exactly what it can do without any special events. Hope this helped you out, my friends, and as always, questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know, and I'll do my best to get back to you as quick as I can. Now with the specialization, you can see I'm using Gunner, and I'm doing that for the following reasons. You get that extra armor on kill, reload speed increase, access to the Banshee Pulse, extra rate of fire, you get some extra weapon handling when you're in cover as well. And always remember, please make sure to have the proper weapons activated in your weapon skill tree. That way you're getting a 15% weapon damage bonus regardless of which one you're using. Now my primary weapon for this build is the blue screen. It's slowly becoming one of my go-to weapons in the game. There's a bit of a learning curve, but once you get it down, it's absolutely amazing for crowd control. You can see it has the talent Disruptor rounds, where shooting an enemy marks that enemy and adds a stack to the agent up to a count of 50. Shooting a marked enemy refreshes the mark and adds stacks to the agent. When you deploy a non-shield skill, remove all stacks on agent and all marked targets trigger an effect, and you can see the following effects depending on how many stacks you have. And you can also see at the very bottom, they say this effect will trigger immediately if any marked enemy is killed. As far as the secondary is concerned, it's totally up to you, my friends, dealer's choice. And if you don't have, let's say, the blue screen, in the meantime, you could use your favorite LMG with a talent like Pressure Point, as that is going to amplify your weapon damage by 15% to enemies under a status effect, which is pretty much every damn enemy you're going to be shooting because of the gear set that we're using. Now you can see the gear set we're using for this build is Ongoing Directive. We're running 4 pieces to get all of the gear set bonuses. 2 pieces 15% status effect, 3 pieces 30% reload speed, and 4 pieces rules of engagement, where shooting a status affected enemy will apply a mark, and killing a marked enemy is going to grant a full clip of hollow point ammo for your active weapon and half a clip of the agent active weapon to the rest of the party. Mark is going to last for 10 seconds, and not only that, the hollow point ammo amplifies weapon damage by 20% and applies bleed on hit. Next we have the body armor, which is the second piece of Ongoing Directive, and because we're wearing a piece of Ongoing Directive as the body armor, we have access to the talent Parabellum rounds, and that is going to increase the hollow point ammo weapon damage amplification to 50%, so you definitely want to use that. Continuing on to the holster and the knee pads, 2 more pieces of Ongoing Directive. Right after that we have the gloves, and as you can see we are using the Overdogs. These have the talent Weakest Link, and that is going to amplify weapon damage by 30% to the lowest ranking enemy currently in combat as per the tier hierarchy. If you don't have these, you can use Contractor's Gloves. I can promise you they will get the job done in the meantime, and I'll leave a link on how to get the Overdogs in the video description down below. Last but not least, my friends, we have the backpack. It's the 1 piece of Petrov that gives us an extra 10% LMG damage bonus, and we are using the talent Wicked. We're applying a status effect, increases total weapon damage by 18% for 20 seconds. That is an absolute lifetime in this game. Finally, as far as the skills are concerned, I'm using the combination of the Banshee Pulse and the Reviver Hive just in case things get sideways. I also want to mention, in the gameplay footage you're about to see, I do not have any global modifiers active whatsoever, and the reason for that is to ensure that whenever you see this build, you know exactly what it can do without any special events. Hope this helped you out, my friends, and as always, questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know, and I'll do my best to get back to you as quick as I can.
Cover me! Covering! Unloading on target! No! Man down! No! No! Fire! Not a shot like that!
Detected. Reinforcements en route.
Time to move!
Incoming hostiles detected. Hostile control point nearby. Vital signs critical.
Just give up and die.
Now, starting with the specialization, we are using Gunner, doing that for the typical reasons. First of all, you're going to get that extra armor on kill. You get a reload speed increase. This gives you access to the Banshee Pulse if you choose to use it. Get some extra rate of fire, and always remember, you need to make sure you have the proper weapons activated in your weapon skill tree. That way you're getting a 15% weapon damage bonus regardless of which one you're using. And for the record, the reason I say that in every build video is because a lot of players out there, including myself, we use the same template for different builds. You don't switch the weapon, you're leaving weapon damage on the table, and you do not want to make that mistake. Now, my primary weapon for this build is the Pestilence. I'd have to say this and St. Elmo's are my favorite weapons in the game. As you can see, this has the talent Plague of the Outcast. And with that talent, hits applied to buff dealing 100% weapon damage over 10 seconds. It stacks up to 50 times. Whenever an enemy dies with that debuff, 100% of the stacks are transferred to a nearby enemy within 25 meters. As far as the secondary and sidearm is concerned, it is totally up to you, dealer's choice. I typically will run with the Lexington just because I love this weapon, and as far as the handgun is concerned, if you have the quick step, I recommend using that because remember, with its talent, when the weapon is in your hand, you're getting an extra 20% movement speed bonus. Now moving on to the gear itself, you can see we're running 3 Langmo, 1 Petrov, 1 Cheska, and the Catharsis mask, which is what we're starting with. This is one of those must-have exotics in the game. It has the talent Vicious Psycho, where taking damage builds stacks to a cap of 30, and each stack is going to grant 1.5% weapon damage. Taking damage at max stacks triggers a purge, removing all stacks and status effects, then dropping a healing cloud, which restores 5% max armor for 10 seconds to all allies in the cloud. So this happens to be one of those exotics that is great for solo or in a group. Next we have the body armor. It's the first of 3 pieces of Langmo. Now we're running 3 because we are targeting that third brand set bonus, which is 30% LMG damage, and you can see on the body armor we are using the talent Obliterate, where critical hits increase total weapon damage by 1% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 20 times. Next we have the holster. It is the second piece of Langmo, which now, my friends, takes us to the knee pads, and for this build I'm using the Turmoil knee pads. It's the 1 piece of Cheska. Now you can get these during the Rise Up end of season stretch goals event by opening up those different caches, either the Rise Up caches or the Rise Up Prestige caches. Wish you nothing but the best of luck, and these have the talent Bewildered. When dealing weapon damage to an enemy, 50% of the damage will be dealt to another enemy within 30 meters. Now for those of you out there who may not have these knee pads as yet, just use Fox's Prayer. They have that middle attribute, 8% damage to targets out of cover. I can promise you that will still get the job done. And a lot of players out there actually prefer these knee pads over the other ones, so again, they play very differently, so try each one out. Make your own decision. Next we have the gloves. It's 1 piece of Petrov. We are using Contractor's gloves for that middle attribute, 8% damage to armor, and that 10% LMG damage bonus. Last but not least, we have the named Langmo backpack, the Backbone, and it has the talent Perfectly Unstoppable Force, where killing an enemy increases total weapon damage by 7% for 15 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. As far as the skills are concerned, for this build I'm using a combination of the Fixer Drone and the Reviver Hive, just in case things get sideways. When we take a look at the numbers, you can see him sitting at 57.5 crit hit chance. Remember, the max is 60, and 102.1 crit hit damage, and you noticed a lot of these pieces are not fully optimized, so those numbers could definitely be improved. Finally, I want to mention the fact that in the gameplay footage you're about to see, I do not have any global modifiers running whatsoever, and the main reason for that is to ensure that whenever you see this build, you know exactly what it can do without any special events. Hope this helped you out, my friends, and as always, questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know, and I'll do my best to get back to you as quick as I can.
I hit that. Walk that It's not good. He never keep his head. That's the thing. Destroy.
Hostiles guarding location nearby. Heavily Supply room access unlocked.
You'll need to do that again!
Incoming hostiles detected.
Get away!
Fantastic.
Alright, so starting with the specialization, we're using Gunner, doing that for a few main reasons. You get that armor on kill, reload speed increase, but the two primary reasons are that it gives me access to the Banshee Pulse. I'm going to use that the moment I roll up an NPC to put them under a status effect. You also have access to the large pouch. That's going to give you an extra 50 rounds in the magazine, and always remember, you always need to make sure you have the proper weapons activated in your weapon skill tree. That way you're getting a 15% weapon damage bonus regardless of which one you're using. Now, when it comes to your primary weapon, you have a ton of options, all right? For me, I'm going to use a GR9 with the talent Sadist. And you can see that talent is going to amplify weapon damage by 30% to bleeding enemies. We'll talk about how that is going to take place in a moment. Another option is the Bullet King. You never have to take your foot off the gas. You can just mow through enemies non-stop. And another great option is the Carnage, but for me, I'm not really a fan of how that weapon handles. And of course, I could lean into weapon handling more as far as my attributes are concerned. But anyway, always remember, this is just a template. You want to take your time, make a build your own, try out different variations, and roll with the one you enjoy using the most. Now, my secondary for this build is the Lexington with the talent Sadist on it. And for the sidearm, I recommend using the Quick Step because when you have that weapon in your hand, you're going to get an extra 20% movement speed bonus. Now moving on to the gear itself, we're running 4 ongoing directive, 1 Petrov, and the Overdogs gloves. Starting with the mask, it's the first of 4 pieces of ongoing directive. We're running 4 to get all of the gear set bonuses. 2 pieces 15% status effect, 3 pieces 30% reload speed, and 4 piece is rules of engagement, where shooting a status affected enemy will apply a mark. And killing a marked enemy grants a full clip of hollow point ammo for your active weapon and half a clip of the agent's active weapon to the rest of the party. Now you can also see the hollow point ammo is going to amplify weapon damage by 20% and applies bleed on hit. However, because we are wearing the ongoing directive body armor, we have access to the Talon Parabellum rounds, and that is going to increase the hollow point ammo weapon damage amplification to 50%, so you definitely want to use this. Continuing on to the holster and the knee pads, we have 2 more pieces of ongoing directive. I'm doing my best to stack crit hit chance and crit hit damage everywhere I can. Which now, my friends, takes us to the gloves, and you do have a few options. First of all, for me, I love using the Overdogs. These are just kind of one of my go-to exotics that I use on a lot of different builds out there. These have the talent weakest link, and that is going to amplify weapon damage by 30% to the lowest ranking enemy currently in combat as per the tier hierarchy. Now, if you don't have these, or let's say you just don't like them, use the Contractor's Gloves. That's going to give you that second brand set bonus from Petrov. And these also have that middle attribute, 8% damage to armor, which is one of the best attributes in the game. Now, in the gameplay footage you're about to see, I am using the Overdogs. Just want to make sure I mention that. Finally, my friends, we have the backpack. It's the 1 piece of Petrov, unless we're using Contractor's Gloves. But again, this is the version you're going to see in the footage. And these have the talent Wicked. And as you can see with that talent, applying a status effect increases total weapon damage by 18% for 20 seconds. That is an absolute lifetime in this game. Another great option if you want more survivability is you could use another piece of Petrov, and you can use the talent Bloodsucker, because that's going to give you bonus armor every single time you take out an NPC. And as I mentioned previously, try out different variations, see which one you enjoy using more. For me, I just like using the talent Wicked on the backpack. As far as my skills are concerned, I'm using the Banshee Pulse and the Reviver Hive just in case things get sideways. I also want to mention, in the gameplay footage you're about to see, I do not have any global modifiers active whatsoever, and the main reason for that is I want to ensure that whenever you see this video, you know exactly what this build can do without any special events going on. Hope this helped you out, my friends, and as always, questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know, and I'll do my best to get back to you as quick as I can.
Supply room access unlocked. Hostile control point detected. Incoming hostiles detected.
DC star!
Detecting additional hostile contacts.
Starting with the specialization, we're using Gunner. Doing that for that extra armor on kill, you get a reload speed increase, you have access to the Banshee Pulse, you get some extra rate of fire, extra weapon handling when you're in cover, which you will be when you're using this build. And always remember to make sure you have the LMG activated in your weapon skill tree. And the reason I mention that in every single build video I post is because a lot of players out there, including myself, we use the same template for different builds. You forget to switch the weapons, then you're leaving 15% weapon damage on the table, and you do not want to make that mistake. Now obviously my primary weapon for this build is the Big Alejandro LMG. I'm telling you right now, fellow agents, this is going to be one of those must-have exotics in the game, and I know it's going to be a bit of a grind to get the thing, but it will definitely be worth it. And as you can see, it has the Talon Cover Shooter. Every bullet fired while in cover increases weapon damage by 1% up to 100%. The bonus is going to last for 15 seconds, however, getting a kill with this weapon while in cover will reset the duration. But the last part's very important. They say the bonus damage is cancelled by reloading, swapping weapons, or exiting combat. Now the reason that's such an important detail is because I know a lot of players out there, including myself, anytime there's a break in the action, we have that muscle memory, we reload our weapon. So there does happen to be a little bit of a learning curve when it comes to this weapon, but to put it bluntly, keep your foot to the floor when you're using this thing and you will be absolutely shredding enemies left and right. Now making our way to the gear itself, you can see we're running 4 tipping scales, 1 unit alloys, and the Overdogs gloves. Starting with the mask, it's the first of 4 pieces of tipping scales. We're doing that so we get all of the gear set bonuses. 2 pieces 30% magazine size, 3 pieces 30% LMG damage. 4 pieces throttle control, shooting build stacks to a max of 50. Each stack is going to provide 0.5% weapon handling and 4% crit hit damage. You lose 6 stacks per second while not shooting, and no stacks are lost if the enemy is suppressed. Next we have the body armor, and for the record, you can use so many different brand sets if you want. For me, for this build, I'm using the 1 piece of unit alloys. That's going to give me an extra 5% rate of fire increase, and I'm using the named body armor, the Equalizer, because that has the Talon Perfect Obliterate. Critical hits increase total weapon damage by 1% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 24 times. Another great option is a piece of Petrov that's going to give you some extra LMG damage bonus. You could also use a piece of Grupo if you want. Totally up to you. I prefer running with the Talon Obliterate. However, I know a lot of players out there use the Talon Glass Cannon. So again, my friends, remember this is just a template. Take your time, make it build your own, kick the tires, and see which one you prefer using. Continuing on to the holster and the knee pads, they are 2 more pieces of the Tipping Scales gear set, and you will notice I am doing my best to stack crit hit chance and crit hit damage everywhere I can. Next we have the gloves, and as you can see, they are the Overdogs. They have the Talent Weakest Link. That is going to amplify weapon damage by 30% to the lowest ranking enemy currently in combat. If you don't have these as yet, I recommend using Contractor's Gloves, and I will leave a link to a farming video showing you how to get the Overdogs if you don't have them at the moment. Last but not least, my friends, we have the backpack. It is the 4th and final piece of the Tipping Scales gear set, and because we're wearing that bag, we have access to the Talent Snowball, and that is going to increase the crit hit damage received per stack from 4 to 7, so that is a nice little jump right there. As far as the skills are concerned, for this version of the build, I'm using a combination of the Banshee Pulse and the Fixer Drone, but you can use whatever you want. And finally, as you can see on screen, another great option is to just run Striker. This is one of the best gear sets in the game, and most of you know that. And all I've done is the following. I've switched the 4 pieces to Striker instead of tipping scales. And once again, this is where trying out different builds is incredibly important. You know, with Striker, you're going to get a much higher RPM. However, your magazine size is going to be 60 rounds less. So a lot of players out there, because of the talent, may want that extra magazine size. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And as always, any other questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know as well. And I'll do my best to get back to you as quick as I can.
Secure the clinic. We can't give up. There could still be survivors inside.
I got this. Kill you, motherfucker! You got the head off of... Reloading, coming in! I got this shit.
Sacred grenade out!
There you are.
Immediate medical assistance needed.
I thought you were supposed to be dead! Fly in the ground! Ready to go?
We'll bury our dead and move